Yeah, and it just depends on your attitude to the market. Do you think it's underpriced? I'm starting to get phone calls on, we think it's overdoing it. Something's going to happen this summer. What are some prices? You know, so either you've adopted the attitude that it's in the bin, it's perfect, and it's only going lower, or we're going to start looking and pricing some stuff for the eventual turnaround, especially when they're this short this time of year.
Welcome to Hedge Heads, where hosts Jon Prischman and Ryan Tungseth discuss commodity markets, hedging, and anything related to trading futures. Remember, the risk of loss in trading commodity interests can be substantial. These are opinions only and not trading advice. While no one knows where the market's going, they're not afraid to share some ideas.
Well, John, we got a little news out of Russia, Ukraine. Is it enough to turn the market around?
The grain markets don't think so. They still would it start off one overnight and up with one in wheat. And you go back not that long ago, that would have been a limit move. A lot of people are talking about it. Nothing happened further to escalate it. But yeah, I would say that's about as escalated as it's been in a long time. Now, the question is, what is Russia going to do back, and how is it going to affect the markets? The grain markets completely have shrugged this off. They shrugged off the great export inspections again this morning. That is their new favorite thing to do. Good news is bad news, and they sell it every day.
It's been happening all year, basically. So what's the story?
It really
why?
Yeah, it really started in September, and you saw this momentum trading take over. Beans had a large crop coming. Not a lot of good news, and they bought it all September. It went up, I think, $1.05, $1.10, got towards $11, and then the wheels came off and completely fell apart and went right back to where it started from. But it was the way the market was going to start trading. Like, it just gets this momentum of direction, and now it's been down in wheat, it's been down in corn. And they just don't take their foot off the gas pedal. They just, like today's a perfect example. Corn was up 5 with a lot of good news today. You had the Russia and Ukraine tensions, great export inspections. We were up 5. Then the selling comes, and it doesn't come all at once. It's just relentless throughout the entire day. Next thing you know, they're bear spreading it. They went from bull spreading at 3 cents to bear spreading, meaning July was weaker than December at the end. And this is with stellar exports and December having perfect weather. They're 2.5 cents away from carry. And why I bring this up is that's a really bad sign for new crop corn. Obviously, they're not worried about supply short term, longer term, and they're making money shorting it. Now, is it going to change? That's the phone call that I get often. You know, a lot of people feel this is not a sustainable pattern, and I agree. It doesn't make sense to sell off markets every day, especially with supportive news.
Right. Well, and I think, well, one, who's they?
Yeah.
but why? You know, what's out
money
there that's causing, I mean, the momentum leads to the money.
Yep.
Is really what it is. So at some point it's going to be about money when they change. But do they even care about the fundamentals? Evidently not.
No.
So are they even looking at the fundamentals?
No, and I think this went back to September. It was beans up, you know, when they like a market too. I mean, it can be just as powerful the other way. But it goes down easier. No, I don't think they do. They never really have, but they've never really been able to overpower the markets like they are now, to where the bulls are afraid to step in, even at very low levels. This has to be one of the lowest corn prices for July corn in years, and on some of the best news that we've had in years. We're supposedly at 1.4 billion bushel carryover, and exports are increasing, not even decreasing. There's a lot of hype about South America. That's a little ways off, and it will affect exports eventually. So what I'm saying is this is all the good news. Like, I hate to see the markets when the bad news comes, because there hasn't been any bad news besides that we got off to a good planting start, which the crop ratings and everything came out today. Got off to a fast start, and so far the weather's been cooperative. But still, the crop conditions aren't very good. There's no correlation to crop conditions and final yield. I mean, everybody has seen that, but still, I mean, if you have a 1.8 billion bushel carryover, You have very little carried over from the year before. You have excellent demand. You'd think there'd be just an iota of weather premium in there. None. So guys are one of two camps, just planting and staying busy and ignoring the markets because there's an insurance level of 470. Or like today, some calls were coming. Like, is there any way I can participate if the attitude does shift? Then we started going over some numbers, some corn calls in different time frames, bean calls, and even wheat calls in a much shorter time frame. If you think something is going to happen, hey, can I get involved in July calls? There's only like 14 or 16 days on them, but they're really cheap. So those are the conversations that are happening. Not how do I protect this price, which is usually what happens this time of year. It's, what do I have to lose? Should I re-own some old bushels? What should I do? These conversations haven't happened in summer for me for a very long time, where you want to buy it, not sell it, or at least, you're not holding out for higher prices. We're going to harvest lows, in May and early June is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, it's been crazy. So how much grain do you want to talk about in this episode? Well, or does that cover it? I know we teased soy meal on Twitter.
Yeah.
Do you want to dive into that?
And that ties in how, if it's this beat up, how can I get involved? Is it, so I went and looked at the meal spreads. Like the one I looked at was October 26 or 25, March 26. And it's at 30, never been this low this time of year. I mean, it's which makes sense when you short a market like that every day. Eventually the spreads get really wide. So how can I participate without a lot of risk? Spreads can be risky without a doubt, but at these levels, not as much. So you're looking at, if you need to change attitude to the market quick, call, and that happened and they started covering shorts, calls would be the best tool. But then you don't want to go throwing away money either at markets that go down every day. So you say, why don't you just join them to the downside? Well, it's not that easy this time of year. This is not, we're harvesting it. You're going to see pressure. We have a lot of weather ahead of us. It's just abnormal to have this pattern. So the markets that I'm looking at were soy meal and how to get involved there. And, when the shorts cover, how to profit. And then wheat in the short term here with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. And then soybeans, I still like longer term calls. The forecast is good. So what do? You can't rush out there and buy calls. But we're at a price now where soybeans don't really need to go under unless the 295 changes. And back to what I was saying earlier, we're already at harvest time low prices that we've seen in the recent past with better fundamentals, and we haven't even really begun to grow this stuff yet. So quite an interesting year. And we did talk about last time, we're going to talk about other markets that we get involved in on a weekly basis, daily basis, some of the markets you might not know even exist.
Yeah, what do you want to start with?
Well, what's your favorite?
My favorite non-grain commodity?
Yes.
I mean, lean hogs we talk about, but I trade a ton of the micro Dow and the E-mini S&P. Yep. I really enjoy both those. So those are common. And then crude oil, of course, but we talk about that. So what else don't we talk about that we trade?
Well, all the metals, of course.
All the metals. I hate trading metals, so that's not me, that's you.
No, and it's metals are a different animal. You have to go with the mindset that it's very volatile, and you got to expect a lot of volatile moves. Now, gold's been very nice, but there's a lot of different size contracts. You don't there's a 100-ounce contract. There's a third, which would be 33.3, repeating, of course, and then the micro, I think, is only 10 ounces. So you have a wide variety, and that's a trend that I like. Is all these different size contracts. We were talking about, we're looking forward to unleaded and heating oil or diesel going to smaller contracts. There'll be a huge market for that for hedging. So yeah, we deal a lot with the metals. Well, I wouldn't say a lot. Guys are always watching the metals. And when it gets to be very volatile, it gets to be a harder market to be in. Silver is a market that a lot of people like. Platinum's my favorite. And that is a 50-ounce contract. So you don't need to know all this. This is what we're here for. You can call us and ask us, hey, what are the different, I want to get involved in this, or I want to buy Bitcoin futures. There's different sizes there too. What the good news is they're making a lot of these contracts. That Ripple XRP, that's going to be coming on. You have another competing Minneapolis wheat contract. So we might get a liquid wheat, Minneapolis wheat option pit finally.
Ooh, that'd be different.
That would be different, where you could actually use that to hedge. Yeah, although you can, still it's tricky to get in there. So you have all these different markets, but whatever they think people are going to get involved in, they try to make a futures contract on it. And we just see a lot of different things. I've traded dry whey, non-fat milk, like you say, lean hogs. I love lean hogs. Different market than it used to be. Cattle. That's a very tradable market. We talk a lot about hedging, but cattle is a market that provides a lot of opportunity, especially in spreads, where the front contract often gets undervalued relative to the next contract. Not in this case. Right now, we're in an inverted market. That's something I follow quite a bit. And then you get into some more obscure markets. I mean, if you scroll down your symbol there, I mean, you can find what's FANG is Facebook, Amazon. I don't remember what N is. What's N? Netflix. And then G was, I don't know.
Google.
That one. Google.
Yeah. Well, because it was Facebook Alpha. What was that? Alphabet.
Yeah, there's
two A's and a T anyway.
There's futures on that basket of particular stocks. So if you want that, so people just think it's all corn, wheat, and soybeans, and cattle, hogs. But it's not like that at all. We have all the interest rate stuff. The problem,
I was just looking through what I've had on my screen.
Yeah.
Recently for customers or for myself. So sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar is a fun one to trade.
Sure, that's the world.
Hours are crazy.
Yeah, the world sugar market. That is one of my old favorite markets that people have kind of gotten away from. But when I first started, sugar, it was a very common trade for people to have on.
And I think it's part of it. It trades from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yeah, the hours, and ICE charges a lot for the quotes. I think it's $160 monthly just for the ICE quotes.
Yeah, cotton. Yep. That's
yep.
Lots of guys trading cotton.
Cotton's further south, but those are markets. ICE really hasn't done a good job with the way that they've tried to get people in these markets. Those were markets that were traded more than they are now, but still, there's guys in cotton, and there's things to do in that. But I like the interest rates. I don't know what the interest rates are going to do right now, and the outlook is really hard to understand what's going to happen, especially with the back end of the yield. So it's not like you need to be in these markets every day. Just realize there's a lot of different markets running in the background. And again, now Bitcoin, micro Bitcoin, Ripple is going to be the new one. And whatever big liquid cryptocurrency, I'm sure they're going to make a futures contract on it. So there's a lot of different things going on in any given day. But mainly guys obviously know the grains and livestock the most. That's where you're going to get the most phone calls. But they're also sometimes surprised that you're able to get in some of these markets. And, like I say, and gold has a lot of different contract sizes, so you don't have to have the 100 ounces. You can have the 10 ounce. So that's what we kind of do in a day. We're looking at every market, looking for any opportunity, looking for spreads in any market, looking for option stuff in any market. There was a very good crude oil set up here not long ago where the OPEC Plus was going to turn on the taps again, and crude oil kind of looked shaky there. It went to 59, I think. Like you could sell a 47 put strike price with like 28 days on it for $1,100. Some guys jumped on that, and then within 3 days, all that premium was theirs, and they captured that. So, but these markets have been really tough, really erratic to figure out what they're going to do. And then you throw in news like what happened last night, and then Trump and the tariffs. It's made for this mix where it's just easier to talk about the markets than being in the markets right now. I haven't seen a lot of easy trades here. You got grains dumping into a window where they normally would be very sensitive to weather. You have numbers where they should be sensitive to the weather, but it's a market that just stuck in the mud and not fun to watch every day in the grains. And that's the markets we have, though.
Yeah, well, and get used to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and to your point, your prediction of, that's on the intro maybe, but you think there could be news tonight that could rock grain markets. So are you going to make that live prediction on the podcast here? Most people won't listen till Wednesday. So,
well, I'm not a Russian general. Okay. I don't have access to the battle plans
to the Russian military.
No, I don't.
I thought that's why you traveled with Disney on Ice. I thought you were undercover Russian.
I have some connections, but Twitter has taught me that it probably is happening tonight. No, actually, no one knows. Other than I doubt Russia's gonna to just brush this under the rug. They went to talk to Turkey, the peace talks. That's officially dead. It lasted an hour and a half because of what happened yesterday. So one would think that's where a lot of volatility in the grains are going to come from. A few phone calls today were definitely like, do you think this is going to affect the markets? And how do we position for it? And, no one knows. No one knows, but it is that event that you don't see that changes everything. And that very well could be what's going to happen here. Yeah, again, we don't know. Like, no one does know, and it'll be a very interesting overnight session. The grains clearly didn't care today. The Dow didn't care. It was down 500, and I'm sure it's up 100. It's probably up 500 by now. So the markets did not care, but I think they could start caring.
You feel like eventually they have to.
Well, this can't continue the way it is. Like, what the next step will be is less fertilizer. You have to cut eventually if the price isn't up there, and then the next step after that would be less acres, and that of course will fix it. But you don't normally talk about this late spring, early summer to where you're already giving up on any sort of price elevation at all during the summer.
Thank goodness we don't usually have to talk about this.
It's usually, there's usually too much to talk about. It's action packed. It's a little bit dry in the West. It's, there's a lot going on, and you'd be hard pressed to find anything. You won't even find a scary drought map on X right now. There isn't anything that's even the bulls are so beat up that they don't even post anything anymore. There isn't. It seems like there's just one side, and that's the bear side, and that's it.
Well, in the last few years, we've sat here and said, repeatedly at this time of year, now is time to hedge. And everyone's looking at it like, it's going up forever. Why would we hedge when it's going up forever? This is definitely an opposite year of that. At the moment. Yeah,
at the moment. And it does change quick, but we just haven't had a look like this. Really, the last time I remember this is basically 2014, and it ended up being a perfect crop. Started out perfect. And the other one would have been 2012, the drought. Terrible mood. Sold off every day into the teeth of the drought. We don't even have a drought developing, so this is no 2012. But could the market eventually become concerned? Absolutely. The 181's a huge number. 52.5 is a huge number. And I have my doubts we're going to live up to that, even with the start we have with this cold. And I wouldn't call it too much rain. Even here, we're drying up pretty good. Currently, it's raining a little.
It's raining currently, so.
But still, it dries up as wet as we were. It dries up in 2 weeks of heat, and attitudes are going to change. But still, the markets are just in that mode where it doesn't appear to matter what the news is. It wants to go down. But if something large happens overnight over the next couple nights, I think the market will pay attention to that.
No, I have to agree with that. I was just thinking from the bull talk, or, is it going to get dry? All those things. It has been so amazing to not see those stories. Even the wheat tour, the wheat tour used to always drive up the wheat prices. You could watch for that. That was a May event.
Yeah.
And nothing this year.
No, it's weird because we do, obviously there's a lot of commodity news on X and Twitter, and everybody follows it. It is weird to see absolutely nothing. There's going to be too much rain on Kansas crop. I don't know how you take a picture of that.
Right.
As they're harvesting, that's not going to be good for it. but you just don't see any, there's no arguing. The Bulls, I think, like I said, they took their ball and went home. They're not even around to even argue on Twitter anymore. A lot of people are confused as why you get good news and it sells off. That can happen for a week or two or a month. You don't generally see 7 months of just selling. Corn was everybody's darling till February, and then everybody hated it. And they sold a record amount of contracts from February till last Friday. They've never sold corn harder. And really, to this day, no one knows why, other than the acreage. But that's, a battle for another day. So we don't want to make it a moat fest, but what are you going to do? You got the markets you're given, and these are nothing like what would normally be happening this time of year at all.
I certainly don't want to cheer for Ukrainian-Russian escalation.
No, I don't. I think that they're really underestimating what's probably going to happen here. Just the treaty being broken. The way that happened, the accusation, I'm sure they're going to think the West is involved. I don't think this is good for anything. And what they're going to do is probably going to be a big surprise. It could be complete annihilation of the ports that they were so worried about 3 years ago. It could be a city. It could be a lot of different things. It could be outside of Ukraine for all we know. So we'll see. The market just completely dismissed that. I mean, you barely had wheat bounce today. It's just in one of those moods. And what are you going to do about it? You can't change it.
No, it also ended up 7 cents down off its high. So
yeah,
I mean, they really don't care.
No, they don't. Crop conditions. We could go over the crop conditions. I think corn came in 1% better than last week in the good to excellent, which is actually a pretty low number. I think it's 69, or I don't know what last week's was. Was it in the 50s?
I don't have it in front of me. Sorry.
It doesn't matter. I mean, we could throw that number out to you. I think it's off to a slow start. Of course, summer is going to come, and it will be. It'll be fine. The yellow corn's getting green, but it didn't improve much. But none of this matters. They're not going to trade that. That's not the mood the market's in. You get in a market that wants to go up, and you throw up numbers that we're seeing right now on exports and the crop condition, and it would be moving higher without a doubt. It's just not that market.
Right. Well, John, I think we need to wrap it up there, and we might need a special episode if there is news we need to cover.
Yeah, we could easily have that episode. And like I say, I wish there was more exciting things to talk about. But talking about, we have no idea what direction the market is going to go. We don't know what the tariff situation is going to be. That seems to change every day. And now we have this Russian-Ukrainian. But it feels like it's building into something, as commodities always do. Like, you sit there, and I was watching a little Vegas mat today, even though it was kind of busy. You get bored for a minute and then wait a week, and everything's different. And that's the way commodities have always been. They never get stuck in a rut for too long, meaning there's going to be stories that are going to be moving these markets soon. And I'd be looking at ways to position for that and coming up with some battle plans for that. But other than that, we'll just have to take it and see what happens overnight into this week. But it looks like it's going to be a big news week to me.
Let's see what happens, I guess. If it is, and we don't have time to record, how do people call and find out what they should do?
218-731-1578.
Thanks, John.
Bye.
Do I have anything for the intro?
If not, you'll remember it during there. There'll be plenty in the middle. Just remember the great one-liners. That's. Yeah. There's probably going to be a lot. You just got to bookmark it sort of in your mind. That was funny. That was funny 5 minutes in.